What's up, YouTube? My name is Alex Reinhart, and so this is the story of my experience planning the reunion ceremonies for MIT and speaking at MIT commencement. I just want to tell the honest story of what it was like, my process of how I came up with what I was going to say, what the actual day and what the weekend was like. And then I'll finish off by reading what I said for anyone out there who's trying to write their own speech. Yeah, so let me just start from the beginning. I graduated in the class of 2021, and as I was leaving MIT, I just wanted to stay involved and continue helping create good experiences for the classes behind me. So I did two things. I applied to the MIT Corporation, which are the people who manage the money for MIT, right? And they're the coolest, most badass group of people. I think the CEO of Pepsi is on it. It's just a collection of academics and successful business people that kind of try to decide how to keep MIT the amazing institution that it is. And so I ran for that. And I didn't get it. But the people from the MIT Corporation told me that I should apply to be the class president of the alumni class of 2021. And I was like, okay, why not? I didn't particularly think I was going to get it, but I applied, and I did not know any of the people who were running against me. I told a couple of my friends to vote for me, but I didn't really campaign, and then I ended up getting it, and that was just honestly one of the luckiest series of events that's ever happened to me. Out of this, I was given the responsibility of planning all of our makeup graduation ceremonies, because the class of 2020 and the class of 2021 did not get to graduate, and they didn't even get their last 2 years of school. I was responsible for advocating for our class in the makeup graduation ceremony. It originally was not what our class was hoping for. During the school year, your senior year, you have this event called the Senior Ball, and it's the highlight of everyone's senior year, but really people look forward to it for a really long time. And we were originally not going to have one in the makeup graduation ceremony, and me and the class of 2020 presidents, there were two co-presidents, fought for there to be a senior ball, and it was a battle. It started out with, they were like, no one's gonna come to this, and then we sent out a survey to get how many people were going to come, and then we got 600 yeses, and so with that we were able to get a bigger venue. And then when we opened up tickets for that venue, they sold out. Not super quickly. It took a month for the tickets to sell out, but the moment they did, people got very upset, which is understandable. But regardless, we fought to try and accommodate them, really not expecting MIT to give us any more space, but they did. It was shocking. That was the most willing to work with us they had ever been. And I think it's because we were receiving a lot of this hate mail, but so were they. They were CC'd on all of these emails of all the angry people insulting us, which was quite hard. MIT ended up working with us, and we got a bigger venue, and we reopened tickets. On the day that we reopened tickets, the whole website went down, which was definitely a foreseeable issue, but whatever. I didn't have any control over that, and they like to use their system, so they did. Everything worked out well in the end, but that's kind of the story of planning the makeup graduation. Definitely a roller coaster of emotion, and I don't know, just a really cool experience to have that much responsibility put on me. During the whole day of senior ball, up until graduation, all I could think about was the speech that I had to give. It was in front of 3,000 people in person, I think, and then streamed live. And it was crazy. it was extremely scary. So now we get to what this video is really about, which is what it was like to speak at MIT's graduation. And so the first thing I want to talk about is kind of my preparation process. So I was asked to speak at the graduation maybe a month before graduation, and then the people in charge of the ceremony were so bad at responding. So I didn't really know like the duration of my speech or like any details until 2 weeks before, which is crazy. And I still hadn't written the speech at that point, though I had been like brainstorming and trying to prepare. So let's talk about what that preparation process looked like. So the first thing I did was I watched about every single commencement speech that I could find on the internet, including Taylor Swift's. It was a little bit challenging to correlate those to my experience because a lot of them were either keynote speakers or valedictorians, and I didn't really fall into either of those categories, right? I don't have this amazing life to come and give you your keynote speech about. And I also wasn't the top of our class. Definitely wasn't even close to the top of our class. So I just felt like I was your average, maybe slightly more outgoing and wanting to be involved in the institute. That's really the only thing that sets me apart. It was really hard to figure out what to write about, but I started by watching a bunch of the speeches on the internet. I also watched about 25 Obama speeches because he is just such a beautiful speaker. And I would love one day to have the same relaxed pauses and smiles. And I don't know, he's magical. I don't think I was quite Obama level up there. When I was trying to decide the idea that I wanted to convey in my speech, I really wanted to steer away from two things. I didn't want to talk about how college is hard and how we stay up late and how we work hard and it's hard. You know, that's so not unique. And then the second thing I also wanted to steer away from was talking about myself, because I barely felt like I deserved to be up there speaking to everyone. So I wanted it to be something that everybody could relate to, that made everybody feel some call to action and made everybody feel proud of who they were at MIT and outside of it. And so that was kind of my goal. Out of that, I had to create a speech, which is the hard part, but let me talk about that in a second. So in thinking of ideas, I was thinking of like stories and podcasts that I had heard that I really loved. And one that I've heard recently is this guy, I forget his name, but I'll put it in the comments below. He was this black guy who went around meeting with members of the KKK and basically convincing them to leave the Klan. He would befriend them and then show them through being smart, being good at communicating, you know, standing up for himself, but without offending anyone. He got more members to leave the Klan than anyone else has. And that really, his story was so moving to me because these people, they hated him and they just thought he had, you know, different genes that made him more prone to violence, things that were just false and offensive. But his patience and his kindness and his ability to still befriend these people changed their mind. And that's what I think, that if people can take just 1 ounce of that with themselves into the rest of their lives, then they can be better politicians, they can be better managers, they can be better everything. I remembered that story and I thought about what was the lesson that I took from that story. And so that was kind of where my speech came from. I think that one thing that people try to balance in these speeches is speaking to their friends and speaking to everyone, because it's so rare that you have someone you know on stage to tell your college experience. And so I really liked this idea of how at MIT I saw so much hardship And this was really something that I saw within my friend group. And there were some really, really terrible things that happened. And through that experience, I saw people show so much empathy and love and kindness and forgiveness. That really changed the way that I live the rest of my life. And so that was, without telling any of that, I talked about how everybody at MIT has had their own different kinds of hardships, and maybe that's personal, maybe that's education, maybe that's family or homesickness. And we all came together and helped each other make it through. The last thing I want to talk about before I give the speech is what the experience of speaking was like. Yeah, the first thing I want to mention is that MIT did decide to have the senior ball the night before the graduation, which was at 8 a.m. the next morning. So pretty much everybody in the crowd was dead and hungover and unhappy. The class of 2021 and 2020 had to line up at the gym. I needed to go with the faculty who sit on the stage, which was crazy. The morning of, we go to the faculty tent. As we were sitting there, I was talking to the fellow speakers. There were 4, and I was sitting there just talking to them. And I was like, are any of you guys nervous? And everybody was like, no. And part of me was like, are you serious? You're not nervous? This is crazy. How many times have you spoken to 3,000 people? But the other half of me was like, maybe I should just be suppressing this nervousness. I was definitely nervous. I didn't eat anything that morning. The other thing I asked them was, do any of you guys feel like a little bit like maybe you don't deserve to speak, or just like a little bit of imposter syndrome about this? And everybody was like, nope, that thought has never crossed my mind. And that was, I was like, we were like right behind Raif, the president of MIT. And actually, Raif is from Venezuela, as is my family. Raif was talking to us, and I told him that I was Venezuelan, and he had actually gone to the same college as my mom, which is Universidad Central de Venezuela. And he said, wow, I never thought there would come a day when there would be 2 Venezuelans up on the stage. And that was so cool. And after the speech, he sent me an email congratulating me, and it made me so happy. But then I sent it to my mom, and then my mom was like, oh, he did not send that to you. His assistant sent that to you. You think he has time for you? And I was like, thanks, Mom. And now I will give my speech, but I am going to have to kind of read it a little bit because this was like 3 weeks ago, and I have not looked at it since. Good morning, everyone. It's exciting that so many of you flew in from all over the world to be here today. We certainly didn't expect this when we booked the first venue for Senior Ball. You came back for a reason. For me, and I'm guessing for many of you, it's because you love your friends and the relationships you created while you were here. MIT is a challenging place. It's the challenges we face that reinforce the communities we form. Contrary to popular belief, we are not all geniuses, and most of us do struggle here. Outside of the classroom, we see our classmates go through real personal trauma. But through it all, we're there for each other. For every hardship, I've seen immense thoughtfulness and support come from the people here. It's easy to understand someone's struggles when they're pointed out to you, but a truly thoughtful person will not only notice, but act. At MIT, we didn't only think about ourselves, we thought about the world. When we volunteered, when we rallied for MIT to divest from fossil fuels, when we wrote papers for our dreaded Haas concentrations. The key to solving the issues plaguing society today is showing the same thoughtfulness that we have for our friends to everyone else. We can think about minorities and how we can help create the diversity we want to see in the world. We can think about victims of discrimination and how we can help stop all of this hatred. We can think about politics and how we can use empathy to have conversations with people we do not agree with. And we can think about all of this before anyone has to point out the problem to us. The world watches for MIT to light the right path through technology and innovation. What if we were to show the world that we could lead them also through empathy and kindness? Thank you. So that was my speech. It definitely leaned a little bit more serious than some of the other speeches that were just jokes about our experience at school and COVID, which I think there's space for both, and honestly, it's great to have that balance. But outside of the speech itself, it was such an honor to be able to speak at graduation, and I hope that some of you guys can take something useful out of this video, whether you're helping prepare for a speech or you're just curious about what it would be like. Just put yourself out there, go for the things that you're not sure if you deserve, and just see what happens. Thanks. Bye, everyone.